The stars shimmered against the vast darkness as Commander Jiwoo Park stood on the bridge of the TSS Defiance. Her dark eyes reflected the holographic displays surrounding her command chair. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced warship, yet it looked small and weak compared to the massive alien vessels of the Galactic Confederation. "Status report," Jiwoo ordered, her voice calm despite the tension filling the bridge. "All systems normal, Commander," replied Navigation Officer Junho Lee, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "We've reached our assigned position." Jiwoo nodded. Earth had only joined the Confederation 3 years ago. The alliance of over 2,000 alien species had reluctantly accepted humans as members, but treated them as children who had stumbled onto the galactic stage by accident. When the Void Armada, ancient enemies of the Confederation, emerged from dark space after centuries of silence, the Alien Council had assigned Earth's tiny fleet to the most remote defensive position. They expected little from the primitive apes, as some council members called humans behind closed doors. "Message from High Command," announced Communications Officer Sora Kim. "The Void Armada has broken through the first defense line. Casualties are high." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. The Confederation's mighty dreadnoughts, each the size of a small moon, were being destroyed faster than anyone had predicted. "Show me," Jiwoo said. A holographic display appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed massive black ships with spiky, organic-looking hulls tearing through the Confederation's first line of defense. Energy weapons bounced harmlessly off the void ships, while their return fire cut through advanced shields like they weren't. "They're heading this way," Tactical Officer Hyunwoo Choi reported. "Estimated arrival, 43 minutes. Jiwoo pressed a button on her chair. "Chief Engineer Min-jae, is our special package ready?" "Yes, Commander," came the reply from the engine room. "The Singularity Drive is at full power. We can activate on your command." What the Confederation didn't understand about humans was their unique history. While alien species had evolved in cooperative environments or been uplifted by older races, humans had fought their way up from the bottom of the food chain on a world that tried to kill them daily. Earth's history was filled with wars, disasters, and struggles that forced constant innovation. The Defiance looked like a standard light cruiser from the outside, but inside, it contained technology no other species had imagined possible. The result of humanity's desperate need to level the playing field against older, more advanced civilizations. "Commander," Sora called out, "we're receiving distress signals from Confederation ships. They're asking all vessels in this sector to retreat immediately. Send this reply. TSS Defiance acknowledges but will maintain position as ordered," Jiwoo said. "They'll think we're crazy," Junho muttered. "Let them," Jiwoo replied with a small smile. "We've been underestimated our entire history." 30 minutes later, the first wave of void ships appeared. Their black hulls seemed to absorb the very starlight around them. They moved with an unsettling, organic fluidity despite their massive size. 5 void destroyers, Hyunwoo reported. "They've spotted us. Weapons charging." "All hands, battle stations," Jiwoo ordered calmly. "Activate defensive systems." The crew braced for impact as the void ships fired. Streams of green energy shot toward the Defiance, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. But the energy never hit. Instead, it seemed to bend around the human ship, warping and twisting until it reflected back toward the attackers. 2 void ships exploded instantly as their own weapons hit them. "Quantum mirror successful," shouted Min-jae over the comm. "The reflection field is holding." The remaining void ships paused, seemingly confused by what had happened. No Confederation vessel had ever survived direct fire from their weapons, let alone reflected it back. "They're regrouping," Hyunwoo said. "Changing formation." Jiwoo's eyes narrowed. "They think we got lucky. Let's show them it wasn't luck. Prepare the Singularity Drive for a short-range demonstration." "Are you sure, Commander?" asked Min-jae. "We were saving that for—" "The Void Armada just lost ships for the first time in this war," Jiwoo interrupted. "I want them to know exactly who they're dealing with. Humanity isn't going to hide in the shadows anymore." As the void ships moved, To surround the Defiance, Jiwoo gave the order that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Activate Singularity Drive, 10% power. Target the lead ship only. A low hum filled the bridge as reality itself seemed to bend around them. A small dark spot appeared in space between the Defiance and the lead void ship. It wasn't an energy weapon or a missile. It was a tear in the fabric of spacetime itself. The void ship tried to evade, but too late. The spatial rift expanded just enough to touch its hull, and in an instant, the massive destroyer folded in on itself, crushed by forces beyond conventional physics. Silence fell across the bridge as the crew watched the remaining void ships quickly retreat into hyperspace. Send a message to the Confederation Council, Jiwoo said quietly. Tell them the Defiance has engaged the enemy, and tell them humanity is ready to show what one ship can really do. News of the Defiance's impossible victory spread across Confederation channels like wildfire. Commander Jiwoo Park watched the incoming reports with steady eyes while her crew celebrated cautiously around her. They're calling us the Miracle Ship, said Communications Officer Sora Kim looking up from her console. The Confederation Council is demanding explanations. Let them demand, Jiwoo replied calmly. We have bigger problems. On the main screen, hundreds of red dots represented void ships regrouping near the edge of the sector. The initial skirmish had only been with a small scouting party. The main fleet was mobilizing. The Confederation Defense Fleet is in chaos, reported Tactical Officer Hyunwoo. Their formations were designed to fight conventional battles. The Void Armada moves like a single organism, adapting to each attack. Jiwoo nodded. That's why standardized tactics don't work against them. The Void learns. The bridge fell silent as a priority transmission came through. Admiral Taeyong Kang, Earth's representative to the Confederation Military Council, appeared on screen. Commander Park, your orders have changed, he said, his face grim. The Confederation has lost over 300 capital ships in the first wave alone. You are to join the second defensive line at the Mira Junction. Sir, with respect, the Defiance would be more effective operating independently, Jiwoo argued. Our technology is exactly why you're needed at Mira, the Admiral interrupted. The Council finally admits they might have underestimated Earth's contributions. They want your ship where it can protect their retreat if necessary. After the transmission ended, Chief Engineer Min-jae spoke up from his station. They still don't understand what we can do. Then we'll show them, Jiwoo said firmly. Set course for Mira Junction, maximum speed. The Defiance arrived at Mira Junction to find a massive fleet of Confederation ships arranged in defensive formations. Over 2,000 vessels from dozens of alien species had gathered in a last stand against the approaching Void Armada. A massive Feldorian dreadnought, its crystal hull glittering in the light of 3 nearby suns, hailed them immediately. Human vessel, you will take position in the auxiliary support group, ordered Fleet Commander Azoth, a tall reptilian alien whose scales shifted colors as he spoke. Your unusual defense capabilities may be useful in protecting our medical ships. Jiwoo's expression remained neutral. Fleet Commander, the Defiance requests forward position in the vanguard. Denied. Azoth replied coldly. This is not the time for your species' famous recklessness. One lucky encounter does not qualify you. For his words were cut short as alarms blared across all channels. The Void Armada had arrived earlier than expected, bypassing several sensor arrays. All ships battle positions, Azoth ordered. Through the view screen, Jiwoo and her crew watched in horror as thousands of black void ships poured into the system. Their formation was unlike anything seen before. A massive 3-dimensional web that could envelop the entire Confederation fleet. They've adapted already, Hyunwoo said quietly. They're positioning to neutralize conventional energy weapons. The battle began with a devastating exchange of fire. Confederation ships launched everything they had, but most of their weapons were absorbed by the void ships' black hulls. The return fire was precise and merciless, targeting command ships and heavy weapon platforms first. Commander, our orders? Asked Junho from navigation. Jiwoo stood from her chair. Ignore the fleet formation. Take us straight into the center of their web. The bridge crew exchanged glances but followed her orders without question. The Defiance accelerated, weaving through the chaotic battlefield toward the heart of the EO. Void formation. Multiple enemies targeting us, warned Hyunwoo. Impact in 5 seconds. Activate quantum reflection at full power, Jiwoo ordered. When the void weapons fired, the energy bent around the Defiance in beautiful, terrible arcs before redirecting toward other void ships. Dozens of enemy vessels collapsed as their own. Weapons tore through their hulls. Singularity drive at 30%, Jiwoo commanded. Create a spatial disruption field. Maximum radius. The space around the Defiance seemed to ripple as reality itself bent to the will of human technology. A bubble of distorted space-time expanded outward, passing harmlessly through Confederation ships, but causing catastrophic failures in any void vessel it touched. From the Confederation flagship, Commander Azoth watched in disbelief as one small human ship carved a path of destruction through the seemingly invincible enemy fleet. How is this possible? He demanded. Admiral Kang's voice came through the channel, pride evident in his tone. You've spent centuries perfecting your existing weapons. We spent our time thinking of entirely new ones. As the battle raged on, the Defiance became the focal point. The tide began to turn as the Void Armada, for the first time in its ancient history, was forced into retreat. When the fighting finally ceased, nearly a third of the Confederation fleet had been destroyed, but the Void had lost over half their forces. On the Defiance's bridge, an exhausted Jiwoo Park received transmission after transmission from alien commanders, all asking the same question. What exactly was this human ship? They're finally taking us seriously, Sora said with a tired smile. Good, Jiwoo replied, because this was just the beginning. The Defiance docked at the Confederation Central Station, a massive ring-shaped structure orbiting a blue gas giant. Commander Jiwoo Park stood tall as she led her crew through the arrival terminal. Aliens of all shapes and sizes stopped to stare at the humans who had somehow changed the course of the war. They look at us differently now, whispered Sora as they walked. With fear or respect, I can't tell which. Both, Jiwoo replied quietly. And that's exactly what we need. The Confederation Council had called an emergency session. For the first time in its 5,000-year history, a human was invited to address the full assembly. The circular chamber was filled with representatives from over 2,000 species, their voices creating a constant hum of translated conversations. High Counselor Marok, an ancient being with translucent skin that revealed swirling colors beneath, called for silence as Jiwoo took the central platform. Commander Park, the alien's voice echoed. Your ship has accomplished what our military strategists deemed impossible. The Council demands to know how one small vessel destroyed over 300 void ships when our most powerful dreadnoughts failed. Jiwoo looked around the chamber, noting the mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and hope on the faces of the gathered aliens. She nodded to Admiral Kang, who activated a small device. A holographic display appeared above the platform, showing a complex mechanism unlike anything the Confederation had seen before. This is the Singularity Drive, Jiwoo explained, the secret weapon that allowed us to fight the Void Armada. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Several council members rose from their seats in alarm. Impossible, shouted a Zentari scientist, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly. Such technology violates the fundamental laws of physics. No, corrected Chief Engineer Minjae, who stood beside Jiwoo. It operates within physics you simply haven't discovered yet. Admiral Kang stepped forward. For centuries, your civilizations shared technology openly, creating standardized weapons and defenses. You became predictable. The Void studied you for millennia, learning exactly how to counter your every move. But humans were isolated, continued Jiwoo. We developed in a different direction. 20 years ago, we discovered unusual energy readings from a crater on Earth's moon. Inside, we found a natural tear in space-time, a connection between dimensions that shouldn't exist. The hologram changed to show footage of the lunar excavation, where scientists in white suits worked around a floating dark spot that seemed to bend light around it. Instead of sealing it as your scientists would have recommended, we studied it, Jiwoo said. We learned to create controlled versions, to harness the power between dimensions. High Counselor Merok leaned forward. And this is what powers your weapon? A tear in reality itself? Yes, Jiwoo confirmed. The singularity drive doesn't fire energy or projectiles. It creates small controlled fractures in space-time that appear inside enemy vessels. The laws of physics briefly collapse within these fractures, causing catastrophic system failures. But the calculations required to control such phenomena would be beyond any computer, argued another counselor. Minji smiled slightly. They are. That's why the singularity drive requires human operators. Our brains are uniquely suited to interface with quantum uncertainties. The revelation caused even more commotion. Some council members appeared horrified, others fascinated. Many began arguing among themselves about the ethics and dangers of such technology. High Counselor Merok raised a hand for silence. If what you claim is true, why have you come forward now? Why reveal your secret weapon? Jiwoo's expression grew serious. Because the Void Armada has identified us as their primary threat. Their hive intelligence has already adapted to our first demonstrations of the technology. Our long-range sensors indicate they're gathering their entire remaining fleet, over 10,000 ships, to eliminate the Defiance before Earth can produce more vessels with this capability. The chamber erupted in panic. Even with the Defiance's impressive victories, the idea of facing such overwhelming numbers seemed hopeless. Admiral Kang's voice cut through the chaos. We didn't come to ask for help. We came to warn you that the next battle will be decisive. If you want to survive, you need to trust us one more time. As the council debated frantically, Jiwoo received an urgent message on her personal communicator. She quietly showed it to her crew. The screen displayed a simple countdown, 18 hours until the Void Armada would reach their position. It seems, Jiwoo said softly to her team, that we don't have time for politics after all. That night, while the Confederation Council continued its emergency session, the Defiance silently detached from the docking bay and disappeared into the darkness of space, heading toward a remote star system where they would make their final stand. The star system had no official name in Confederation records. It appeared only as System J-17 on navigational charts, marked as uninhabitable due to its unusual gravitational patterns. But the crew of the Defiance had nicknamed it Nowhere during their escape planning, and the name had stuck. Perfect. Positioning, said Navigation Officer Junho as the Defiance slowed to a stop in the shadow of a small rocky moon. The gravitational waves here will amplify the singularity drive's output by at least 40%. Commander Jiwoo nodded. She had been awake for nearly 30 hours straight, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. The Defiance had fled the HFY Confederation station while politicians argued about what to do. They had no choice. The Void Armada was coming, and the human ship was their target. Status report, Jiwoo ordered. Singularity drive at full power, reported Minjae from engineering. We've rerouted all non-essential systems to boost capacity. Quantum reflection field is online but may not hold against concentrated fire from thousands of ships, added Hyunwoo from Tactical. We'll get one chance at this. Jiwoo pressed a button on her command chair. A recorded message appeared on screen, ready to be transmitted across all Confederation channels. Send it, she ordered. Across thousands of worlds, on ships and stations, throughout Confederation space, screens suddenly displayed the face of a human commander. Many alien species had never seen a human up close before. This is Commander Jiwoo Park of the TSS Defiance, the message began. The Void Armada is mobilizing their entire remaining fleet to attack us. We have lured them to coordinates J178245, a system we call Nowhere. If you want to see how one ship can defeat a fleet, I suggest you watch. The transmission ended, as abruptly as it had begun. In the Confederation Council chamber, pandemonium erupted. Is this human insane? Demanded a Zentari counselor. One ship against 10,000? Admiral Kang merely smiled. Just watch. Back in the Nowhere system, long-range sensors detected the first wave of void ships exiting faster than light travel. Soon thousands of black vessels filled the view screen, their organic-looking hulls blotting out the stars as they formed a massive sphere around the Defiance. They've completely surrounded us, observed Sora. No escape routes. Exactly as planned, Jiwoo replied calmly. Their formation means they'll have to be careful with crossfire. They can't hit each other without hitting us first. The Void Fleet held position, seemingly calculating the perfect moment to strike. The bridge of the Defiance was silent except for the soft beeping of instruments. They're charging weapons, reported Hyunwoo. All ships, simultaneously. Jiwoo stood from her chair and walked to the center of the bridge. Activate neural interface. A small device lowered from the ceiling, positioning itself above Jiwoo's head. Similar devices appeared at each crew station. The humans had kept this technology secret even from their Confederation allies. Direct neural links to their ship's systems, allowing them to process quantum data through their uniquely adapted brains. Neural synchronization in 3, 2, 1, counted Minji. Light patterns danced across the interfaces as each crew member connected their consciousness to the ship. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue light. Through the neural link, they could feel the singularity drive as if it were part of their own bodies. The Void Armada is firing, announced Hyunwoo, his voice strangely distant through the interface. Quantum. Reflection at maximum, responded Jiwoo. Hold until my mark. The space around the Defiance lit up as thousands of energy beams converged on the small human vessel. The quantum reflection field bent and twisted, struggling to redirect so much. Power. Field failing, warned Minji. 30 seconds until breach. Jiwoo closed her glowing eyes. Through the neural interface, she could feel the gravitational waves of the star system, could sense the precise moment when they would align perfectly with the singularity drive. Now, she whispered. Minji pressed his hands to his console. Singularity. Drive activating at 100% capacity. Reality itself seemed to scream as the space around the Defiance began to fold inward. A series of small dark points appeared throughout the Void Fleet, not randomly but in a precise pattern calculated through the neural interface. Each point represented a tiny tear in the fabric of space-time, a controlled violation of the laws of physics. When these tears appeared inside the void ships, the effect was catastrophic. Matter twisted in impossible ways. Energy systems imploded. Thousands of vessels began to break apart from the inside, their advanced technology helpless against fundamental disruptions in reality itself. From observation points throughout the Confederation, alien species watched in awe as the mighty Void Armada collapsed in on itself. Not with dramatic explosions or heroic last stands, but with the quiet, terrifying efficiency of physics being rewritten. In less than 5 minutes, over 9,000 void ships had been destroyed or crippled. The few remaining vessels attempted to flee, only to find their engines failing as dimensional aftershocks rippled through the system. On the Defiance, the neural interfaces powered down. The crew slumped in exhaustion, the mental strain of controlling, quantum singularities taking its toll. Jiwoo looked at the view screen, where the wreckage of the once mighty Void Fleet drifted silently. Transmit to all Confederation channels, she said, her voice hoarse. The Battle of Nowhere is over, the Void Armada is defeated. The return of the Defiance to Earth was met with a celebration unlike anything humanity had seen before. Millions of people filled the streets of every major city, watching on massive screens as the small warship, now bearing battle scars across its hull, descended through the atmosphere. Commander Jiwoo Park stood at attention as the landing ramp lowered. The bright sunlight made her squint after weeks in space. Behind her, the crew of the Defiance followed in perfect formation, their faces showing the strain of what they had endured, but also unmistakable pride. Earth's Defense Council waited at the bottom of the ramp, along with representatives from every major nation. And more surprisingly, a delegation of alien dignitaries from the Confederation stood off to one side, their varied forms drawing curious glances from the human crowd. Commander Park, said Defense Minister Yunji, bowing deeply. You and your crew have changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Jiwoo returned the bow. We simply did what was necessary, Minister. The Confederation Council has requested your presence, said Admiral Kang, stepping forward. They've called for an extraordinary session, the first time in 500 years. 3 days later, Jiwoo found herself standing once again before the Confederation Council. This time, however, the atmosphere was completely different. Gone was the skepticism and condescension. Now, representatives from 2,000 worlds watched her with something approaching awe. Commander Jiwoo Park of Earth, announced High Counselor Marok. You stand before us as the first human ever to receive the Star of Valor, the highest honor the Confederation can bestow. The massive chamber erupted in applause. Species that had once dismissed humans as primitive newcomers now rose to their feet, or equivalent appendages, in respect. We must ask, continued Marok when the noise subsided, how did your people develop such revolutionary technology when our combined civilizations, with millions of years of scientific advancement, did not? Jiwoo looked around the chamber before answering. The answer is simple. Perspective. For thousands of years, your civilizations shared knowledge, built upon common foundations, followed similar paths of development. But humans evolved in isolation, on a world that challenged us at every turn. She paused, choosing her words carefully. When we looked at the universe, we saw it differently. Where you saw impossibilities, we saw opportunities. The singularity drive wasn't just a weapon, it was a new way of understanding reality itself. And what does humanity want now? Asked a Zentari counselor. With such power, you could demand anything. Admiral Kang stepped forward. Earth has already begun constructing a fleet of ships equipped with singularity drives, not for conquest but for protection of ourselves and our allies. This announcement caused worried murmurs throughout the chamber. The idea of dozens, perhaps hundreds of ships with the Defiance's capabilities was both reassuring and terrifying. The surviving void ships have retreated beyond the galaxy's edge, said Jiwoo. But they will return one day. When they do, humanity will stand ready. In the months that followed, Earth's status within the Confederation changed dramatically. Human scientists were invited to the most prestigious research institutions across the galaxy. Trade agreements favored Earth's industries, and most significantly, the Confederation military restructured itself, incorporating human tactical thinking and adaptive strategies. 1 year after the Battle of Nowhere, Jiwoo Park, now Admiral Park, stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned TSS Horizon, Earth's first Singularity-class battleship. Beside her stood Captain Sora Kim, formerly her communications officer, now commanding her own vessel. The fleet is ready, Admiral, reported Sora. 20 ships, all equipped with singularity drives. Jiwoo nodded, looking out at the formation of human warships floating in Earth orbit. Each was crewed by humans whose brains had shown the highest compatibility with the neural interfaces needed to control the dimensional technology. Signal from Confederation Command, announced the communications officer. The joint expedition is cleared to proceed. On the view screen, dozens of alien vessels moved into formation alongside the human fleet. Once dismissive of Earth's technology, they now eagerly joined the first major expedition beyond known space, a journey of exploration led by humanity. Captain Kim, said Jiwoo with a small smile, please transmit to all ships. Expedition fleet, prepare for departure. As the combined fleet began to move, accelerating toward the stars, Jiwoo thought about how quickly things had changed. Just 2 years ago, humanity had been seen as primitive newcomers barely tolerated by the ancient species of the Confederation. Now the galaxy looked to humans not with condescension but with respect, and perhaps a touch of fear. The species no one had taken seriously had proven themselves the most dangerous of all, not through brutality or conquest, but through seeing possibilities where others saw only limitations. The legacy of the Defiance would echo through the stars, for millennia to come. Never underestimate the species that refuses to accept impossibility.